Trustee Mahan?
Here.
Trustee March?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Here.
Trustee Lamach?
Here.
Trustee Padilla?
Here.
Trustee Taveldi?
Excused, I believe.
And Mayor Kreitz.
Excused.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. All right, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will rise, and gentlemen, remove your caps. Any caps? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any changes to our agenda this evening?
No changes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, and do our special presentation, Flight 629 Memorial.
Ready?
Yes, please join us at the podium.
How you turn this puppy on? Is it on?
It's on.
Okay. My name is Linda Allure. I'm a member of the Flight 629 Memorial Organization, and I just wanted to share with you a little bit about this if everyone doesn't know. You just put it upside down here? Or up? There we go. In November 1955, a plane carrying 39 passengers, 5 crew, exploded over Weld County, killing all on board just 10 minutes after it took off from flight from Stapleton in Denver. I am a third-generation Coloradoan. I have family members, I have high school friends, and their relatives who remember this incident and who still farm some of the area where this happened. And so I think it's a very notable event in this area. So what I wanted to share was that this crash was actually one of the first sabotaged airlines. It actually was blown up with 25 sticks of dynamite by a gentleman who wanted to kill his mother. What's unfortunate about that is because of all the laws that were not in place, he was convicted, tried, executed, but he was only convicted for the murder of his mother because there were no laws in place that said you can't blow up a plane and kill people. President Eisenhower then did change that. So they were able to do this whole process in 16 months. That's how it should go. You find someone, you convict them, they're done, right? So our goal is, because he was only convicted of his mother's murder, because that was how they connected him to the event, 25 sticks of dynamite in her luggage, the other members, other victims, they were never really remembered. They weren't mentioned in the trial. They received nothing. It was all focused on John Graham and that particular instance. So our goal for a memorial is really just to remember all those people who perished and just kind of, as Conrad Hopp would say, we're just kind of shoved under the rug. Conrad Hopp and his wife still live on Colorado Boulevard, just past King Soopers. When they were 18, they were actually part of the community that went out and helped when the crash happened. So it's kind of interesting to still talk to people that remember this and that were there. And so because of this incident, I know there are other plane crashes that happen, but this one is particularly notable because a lot of things happened as a result of it. Like I explained, Eisenhower signed a law that they now have to, you can't blow commercial airlines up. Your suitcases are now, x-rayed. They also came up with different FBI systems for putting out grids and how to do an investigation. It was actually one of the biggest reconstructions of an airline. And even several years after this accident, this crash, some of the farmers out there on 66 and stuff still found airplane pieces and things throughout the years. So a lot of notable things happened because of this particular incident, and that's one of our, like I said, one of our goals of why we want to have a memorial. We have, I can't say exactly, you know how it goes when you're working on something. We do have the ability to put a memorial actually on a footprint part of where the crash happened. So when we get to that point, we have a place where the memorial can go that actually will be on the footprint of where this happened. Although it did stretch out for quite a ways because of the way it happened. So the other main purpose, of course, we want to recognize the victims. We understand all the notable things that happened. It was national news, not just Colorado. It was national news. It's been, there was even a movie made of it, the FBI story. That's is based on this particular event. And there's been a book written called Mainliner Denver. But our main goal is what was unique about this instance is all the people, the farmers that came out that night and helped. There, in 1955, there was not like a fire department. You called 911 and they all show up. They didn't even have water. It burned for days. So Conrad and his wife, just being 18, one of their jobs was they drove around some of the bodies that they found to mark them. A high school, or was it a college team that was on their way back from a game was recruited to actually stand by and watch some of the victims because there was looting. Even in 1955, there's terrible people. So we really want to remember the victims and the outstanding citizen responders that came. I mean, there were hundreds. Conrad, his wife, even I met Phil. His dad was the manager of Johnson's Corner at the time, and they supplied all the coffee and food for the investigation. The headquarters for this event was in Longmont, 3rd Main, the Imperial Hotel. That's the only place that had enough phone lines. So we've asked all of the different organizations in cities, towns, if they could support our mission in a memorial. We have received support, financial support from a couple others, and so I'm presenting tonight for you to recognize that this happened in Weld County, in our area, and we want to remember the citizen responders and the victims. If you're able to, with your budget, contribute. We are an official nonprofit. We're registered and everything. So I just wanted to share that event with you and ask if you are able to give any support for our mission. And that's it.
What is the total cost of the memorial? I'm just curious
The
that
total
you guys are
cost-
looking for.
It will depend on the final design. We have to work with the architect for the other things that will be near where we want to put it. But we're guessing, a granite stone with some type of bronze airplane on it. We're guessing, gosh, it could be as much as like 50, 75,000, something like that. So, but we're just getting started. The History Colorado is also having a special display of Flight 629 this year because it's the 70th anniversary. Flight Co., which used to be Stapleton Airport, will also have some type of memorial there for that's where it took off. And the police, Mike Hess with the Denver Police Museum is involved in remembering this event. And they've actually put out a challenge coin for Flight 629. So it's kind of a big national thing that happened. So.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The memorial that you want to have built is
Yes,
going to go on the footprint of the site of the crash.
part of it. I mean, it was a pretty big
Yeah,
site,
I mean, you can't do that.
right?
But I saw some press release, and I even think it was on television.
Yes, we've had Channel 7 and Channel 9 have also done stories on this event.
Yeah, they were saying that the memorial was going to be at Stapleton by the old tower.
Right, Flight Co. and Mike Hess Police Department, they have their own memorial that they're doing, and I think because it's the police museum, they're more focused on the police, the responders, the FBI situation, because they really did do different, create different ways to investigate it. Our memorial, once to be right here where it happened and really focus on the victims and the citizen responders. I mean, when I talk to Conrad or Phil or Sylvia or any of those other people who were there, it's just, I can't even imagine. I mean, just imagine if a plane landed in your backyard and all your neighbors came to help. That's a big event. I know plane crashes happen and they have fire and all that and things come of it, but this particular one is notable for just at the time it happened, the first sabotage explosion, and just the way the community reacted. And I think that's something that should be remembered. Any other questions?
So the footprint where you're gonna plan on putting this memorial is in Boulder County,
But Weld,
Weld County?
yes. Because the accident happened like right around 66. 13 and 66 is like right in the area where it happened. I mean, like right here in this area. It's actually now part of Firestone. It was part of Longmont, but now, of course, with, things that happen, it's part of Firestone. So we've already had communication with Longmont, Dacono, Firestone, Meade. Platteville has already given us some. Dacono has already given us some. And so we're working with just different communities, because even in the book, I read the book, Mainliner Denver, the fire chief from Fort Lupton was there. I mean, it was just such a huge event that so many of the small communities really came together. And I just, aside from obviously want to recognize the victims who were kind of forgotten because the focus was on John Graham and his mom's murder, the victims, we just really want to focus on that community event. But it will be in Weld County. Okay. So if there's any other, I know you have your budget set. If there are any grant forms, sometimes you have special forms, special requests. I should have been here in October for the 2025 budget, but sometimes you have maybe just a little bit of wiggle room in there.
Well, so we do have a process to request money, and I think if we could have that filled out, that'd be great. And also, I think, okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I have it in my email, and I was just looking at it. The request was for $1,000.
oh, okay, so we do, okay. I apologize, it's been a crazy day, so.
Well, every city and town is a little bit different. So some said I had to do a special request because the budget was done. Some said, yes, fill out the donation form or grant request. So whatever your system is. Okay? All right, thank you very much.
All right. Where would we, do you guys have any thoughts on that, or I guess if there was a motion for something, we could.
Want to make the motion?
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown, I move that we grant the $1,000 grant request to, community grant request, to Flight 629 Memorial and Unsung Heroes Across America, Inc.
Second.
Motion is second.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Lamont,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla,
Yes.
Trustee March,
Yes.
Trustee Mahan.
Yes.
We have 5. Motion passes 5-0.
6. Oh, no, 5.
We're 5. All right, well, thank you so much, and then we would love to have you come back when it's further along with the project and
Oh, sure. Well, actually,
final
going to
designs
have
and all that.
fundraiser in the spring, because it takes a while to put something like this together. So we're having a fundraiser, hopefully at Meade High School, just so we can get all the. Meade actually has some of the airplane parts, so that were found because they had a lot of sugar beet fields. But we're having a fundraiser. It's a Elvis impersonation concert. So I'll keep you informed and posted on that one. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We sincerely appreciate that.
And thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I missed that. I brain fuzzed there for a moment.
I think it was a while ago.
So,
This has been the longest.
Thanks for keeping us on track on that one then. All right, we will move on to public comment. Then. This portion of the agenda is provided to allow members of the audience to provide comments to the Board of Trustees. Please sign in and you will be called. If your comments or concerns require an action, that item or items will need to be placed on a later agenda. Please limit the time of your comment to 3 minutes. And do we have any? Okay. So just Linda Allure, is that correct?
That was our speaker.
That was flight.
That was our speaker. Okay, so, and then the other one was crossed out, so. Okay, then we are good on that one. So let's move on to staff reports.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. Just a reminder, we do have a regular meeting on the 11th of February and the 25th. And then just to keep on the radar for March 4th, potentially doing the windshield tour as the mayor had talked about. So let me know on the time and date. We probably start that at 5:30 and go as long as we can until it's dark. Just a couple of items. As you've seen in your email, we are well underway with another organizational change, moving based on function and doing some functional studies, combining the departments of engineering and public works to provide a higher level of service to our community. In addition to that, we will be working, I believe we're already in the process and we'll probably have it launched formally in the next week for a public works director, and we'll probably be taking a little bit of an untraditional approach in headhunting to find somebody who has experience in overseeing both of those functions at a higher level. So exciting changes for the town, certainly working to look at where the town needs to be, not just today, but the next 5 to 10 years and building for that. In addition to that, I just want to bring some attention and appreciate obviously the neighborhood services update, as that was a board initiative tonight. We will also send the presentation around to the board to continue that conversation. That's important, as well as the economic development efforts in the downtown. I know that there was a meeting, their first meeting, and they had some really good input, and you'll see that in the admin report, but 12 downtown businesses. And I would encourage, if the board is interested, occasionally as popping in on those, or just an opportunity to further connect with the downtown businesses is really important. And so we appreciate the great work that the team has been doing on that. And then another kudos again, I know, to Colby and his team with Bella Rosa, just some of the great data that's in there with some of the increases. When the board took the initiative 2 years ago to switch directions and really focus on the recreational component, it's very exciting to see that there was a good increase on the golf course side, which is helpful. So with that, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to take them, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can I make a comment on the meetings that you've mentioned with the businesses? I've got a chance to go to 2 of those, and they're really great to go to, just to listen to the businesses. So if anybody else on the board wants to go to them, I think it's worth a couple of hours of your time and to listen to what the business owners have to say. So that's all I have.
All right. All right, well, thank you very much. I think we're good on that one. So we'll move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no separate discussion of consent agenda items unless a board member so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered at the end of the consent agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Trustee Mahan? Trustee March?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Lamont?
Yes.
Trustee Padilla?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the action agenda, and we will start with item H, and that's Sarah, who looks a lot like Ryan. Okay, never mind, just kidding. He's going the other direction. All right. You got me on that one.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Board of Trustees. Before you tonight for consideration is the NISP 21st interim agreement. Oh, sorry. Yes. So this is within the strategic plan goal of strategic, reliable, and sustainable infrastructure. This project is very important for the town's water supply into the future, providing 2,600 acre feet of firm supply once the project is complete. So the total project yield is 40,000 acre feet. The town is one of 15 participants. We purchased 2 different blocks of water starting in 2008. The first was 1,300 acre feet, and the second one was 1,300 acre feet to build that 2,600 acre foot of yield. It's 6.5% of the total project. That seems like a small number, but that does come at a high dollar amount. This map shows the general layout of the Glade Reservoir and Gailton Reservoir. Those are the two main reservoirs for this project. And the green line shows how the water will be transferred through ditches and pipelines down to the town of Frederick. We're just beyond the end of that line there. The water rate study did include the NISP costs. As you know, that was a big portion of that needed increase to pay for that project. So project status, we've hit quite a few milestones in the last handful of years. Most importantly, the 401 water quality certification, the 1041 permit through Larimer County, and the 404 record of decision. And that's what is going through legal right now with support that Northern Water is providing for that case against the Army Corps of Engineers for the decision on that permit. So project schedule, this is a question that we get a lot of, when is it going to provide water to the town? So this is it's a little outdated schedule, but we haven't seen another schedule that is updated as they're working through that legal action right now. The most recent that I've heard does confirm still some wet water out of the Glade Reservoir in 2032. So we're still a little under 10 years out from that. But there's still a lot of design going on, a lot of property acquisition, a lot of easement work. And so 2025, this is a summary of some of the work planned, primarily a lot of those permitting efforts supporting our permit, advancing the Highway 52 design, 287 design. It needs to be relocated. Right now it's going through the site. Continuing more work on pipeline planning and corridors. There is actually going to be some early construction of pipelines through Johnstown. That's in an area where it's being actively developed. So to put in those pipelines now instead of after it's developed, that's being pushed ahead in the project. And that should be happening this year. So the budget, like I said, it seems like a small percentage, but it does come at a high cost to the town because of the volume of water that we're looking at. The budget included $2.2 million for the NISP project. The actual estimate that came back after the agreement was completed for the year is 2.171. So a little bit lower than our budget, but it is within the budgeted estimate for this year. The town recommendation would be, or staff recommendation would be to move forward, sorry about that typo there, with the resolution 25R12. Do you guys have any questions tonight?
They
I
don't.
feel like we talked
Yeah,
in depth about this
Yes.
recently.
they've been very thorough on keeping us informed, so I think we are good to go. Looks like it. So I think if there's some direction.
Mayor Pro Tem, would recommend that we go for the approval of the water rate.
Sorry about that typo. It's for the NISP 21st interim agreement.
Boss, yeah, I got it.
It's on here.
Hmm?
Oh, it's not on here. You can't read it, so.
Yeah.
You want me to go back to the title of the slide?
Yeah.
I don't know.
There it is.
And this, okay, recommend that we recommend that we, I'm drawing a blank here. Approve, thank you. Approve the NISP 21st interim agreement.
Second.
Trustee Mahan? Oh, that was mean. Trustee March?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Lamont?
Yes.
Trustee Padilla?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Excellent. And then, are you also letter I?
I believe so. I've got a few tonight.
You do. You're a triple header here.
Yeah.
Contract for the water reuse plan.
NISP, close NISP.
It's that one right there.
Okay.
All right. So before you tonight, again, for consideration is the water reuse study. This also is in the same vein with a lot of work that we do with engineering and supporting that strategic, reliable infrastructure goal. This helps the town to identify a plan to leverage the investment that we've made into our reusable water supplies, which are the Windy Gap water, a portion of NISP, and our Lower Boulder water. Unfortunately, CBT is not reusable. So the water reuse study is identified in the long-term water resources plan that the town would complete a study to identify how we would use our supplies. Again, the water supplies that we do have that are reusable are Windy Gap, NISP, Lower Boulder, and our Millbeck water that's decreed for municipal use. There's a pretty big range in the supplies that the reusable water can provide to the town. A lot of the variability in that is based on how we use the water. If we use it in the winter, where more water is being returned to the sanitation district than being used for irrigation, that will go up. So we would want to be strategic in the time of year that we use those reusable supplies, as well as promoting water conservation. The timing for this, the importance of the study is to create that baseline for the next steps that we have. We don't have the NISP project online. We are getting close to be able to use our Windy Gap supplies. That supply is almost firm. So if we're not taking that for treatment this year, we can look at taking that for treatment next year. So we are going to start using our reusable supplies in the near term, but it might be a year or three down the road. And we would need to start the water cart applications and procedures that we need to have in place to make sure that we can quantify that reusable supply and use that reusable supply. The deliverables of this project are going to be the analysis of an exchange potential, how we would capture and convey our reusable supplies. Are we going to be capturing them after the sewer treatment plant, putting it into storage and pumping it into town? Where are those best storage buckets? Is that buying an existing storage bucket from somebody or building our own? This report will help inform us on that. Assessing water quality considerations, since this is reusable water, if we are taking it downstream of a water treatment plant that has different water quality implications than the water coming down, say, the Boulder Creek. Slight difference there. And then out of all of that will be packaged into a report, master report. Some of the information about future storage locations and future conveyance routes will be kept confidential as we can to protect our interests in those future acquisition. 2025 budget. The budget includes $361,000 for this. That contract amount is slightly below that. The engineering department did apply for Colorado Water Plan grant to cover 75% of the cost of the project, and that was approved by the Colorado Water Conservation Board. So that's a real big win for our department. It helps protect our water fund by leveraging those grants that are available to the town. We would recommend awarding the contract to Forest Gren This plan, since it is a pretty detailed plan, the proposed schedule for that is about 16 months. We'll be coming back periodically with updates, but expect that final plan to be next year, about mid next year. Are there any questions tonight? All right. And the recommendation of the town would be, again, to approve that contract.
I'm sorry, you said the grant covers, it's 75% of that $360 odd dollar contract?
Yes. The great grant.
Yeah, that's,
Heck yeah.
Nice.
All right. There's no questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown, I'd like to recommend approval of Resolution 25R13 for the consideration and awarding a contract for the water reuse plan.
second,
Trustee March,
Yes.
Trustee Mahan,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Lamont,
Yes.
Trustee Padilla.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Right. And that moves us on to letter J, which is once again you.
You're up again. Keep going, sir.
Yep, wildflower.
All right, so this is my last item before you tonight. This is for the Wildflower First MOAPI amendment. This again falls within the strategic, reliable, and sustainable infrastructure goal of the board. This item deals specifically with the Memorandum of Agreement for Public Improvements to update that document to reflect the requirements of development related to new construction. This particular MOAPI does not impact the town's budget since it's not our utility, but we do need to capture those required improvements in the agreement. So here's a little bit of background about the Wildflower subdivision. It was originally platted in 2008, and that accompanied that development agreement with the original developer owner. Since then, there was a replat, and United Power purchased 3 lots in 2022 and has been in contact with planning staff and engineering staff about development of that property. As staff was reviewing the site plan, and Left Hand Water District 2 is a referral agency as well as the fire district reviewed those plans, they identified the need for a hydrant. And the need for that hydrant also triggers the need to extend a water line that does not currently exist down the road that Wildflower is north of, which is Tipple Parkway. So to give you some context, this is I-25 on the east side, and this is Tipple Parkway on the south. This is the Wildflower subdivision. A lot of people call it Country Meadows or Wildflower, a couple different names in the area. Typically, an MOAPI would apply to the whole subdivision, so that's why there is an MOAPI for the whole Wildflower subdivision. Wildflower is unique where there's residential and commercial. The property that United Power is looking at developing is part of the commercial area here, closer to the frontage road. Typically, if you start to develop within a subdivision, you're required to do all of the subdivision improvements because that is going to be triggered by building a subdivision with homes and a lot of commercial businesses. In this instance, since there is only one property that's being proposed to move forward, the request was made to separate the obligations for United Power under that MOAPI from the rest of the development. So the United Power lots are these outlined here, and then the one that's going to be constructed soon is the one in the middle. It's as proposed as a battery storage location to help improve system reliability and affordability. It helps to balance out the needs of the grid in the system, cutting off some of those peaks where the utility cost is higher. That helps with the affordability. So again, that MOAPI amendment is being triggered by just the United Power development since no other development is moving forward at this time. So the request was made to separate them from the master MOAPI agreement. Communications were held between the fire district, United Power, Left Hand, the original developer and the town to negotiate the amendment. Are there any questions? This is kind of a unique case. All right, and then the staff recommendation would be approval of the Wildflower First Amendment Resolution 25R16.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown, I move to approve 25R16 Wildflower United Power MOAPI amendment.
Second.
Trustee Padilla?
Yes.
Trustee Lamont?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Yes.
Trustee March?
Yes.
Trustee Mahan?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, on to item K. And
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Board of Trustees. Tonight we have, the next item is for approval of the CMGC contract for the Public Works facility. Also felt it was a good time to provide a brief update of the project overall, because we've hit another milestone along the way. First off, I do want to provide some recognition to Alan Isaac, our facility manager. He has spent a lot of time helping get this project, working with our owner's rep, our architect, and our CMGC to get this project to this point. He's been the point person. He's collaborated with all departments to get all the meetings scheduled to get us to this point of design of development that we're at this point to present to you an update along with this contract. So I really wanted to recognize his efforts over the last almost year now of getting this project moving forward at the rate it's moving. Just want to quickly go over quick project progress along with some design. So we have some aerials, site plan, and some renderings. Update on the schedule, kind of what guaranteed maximum price is, and the early release package. Tonight is bid pack 1, and why we're presenting it in kind of 2 bid packs, and the purposes of cost saving and kind of fitting within our time schedule as to why it's being presented in that fashion. So on the design schedule, again, we're kind of in January 2025, which is where you see the long line going down the middle. We kicked off this project of May of 2024, have kind of gone through schematic design development, and we're up through getting construction documents. And along the way, we brought in our owner's rep, which is Dunn Achille. We brought in our architect design firm, which is RB&B, and now we're at the point of bringing in the CMGC, which is FCI Constructors. We're on target of working through the construction documents, getting ready to submit to the town for permit, and the goal is to start construction late spring of this year of 2025. There's been a lot involved in this team to get us there. Public Works, Facilities, Fleet, Streets and Stormwater, the Water Division, Parks and Open Space, Engineering, Planning, Technology, Police, Fire, Sanitation, and Communications. It's been a collective effort on this project to make sure it is done holistically with that 40 to 50 year vision, and making sure the site is being used to its maximum potential for the growth not only today but for the community down the road. Some major milestones is May of 2024. We had program verification was complete. We completed the schematic design in July of 2024. We entered the design development phase completed in November 2024. And now at January 2025, we're at 50% of the construction documents are now complete. Just some quick facts. So when we were working through the design concept of this, it's designed to accommodate 50 years of growth for Public Works and engineering at this site to fit the levels of service and programming that is needed for the community at that point. It will house fleet, facilities, engineering, water, and streets and stormwater, along with parks when it's complete in 2026. It'll also include protected parking for the Public Works vehicle fleet, which will protect that sensitivity of equipment and vehicles due to the elements. It's a 10-acre site of development with around 74,000 square foot of enclosed space amongst 3 different buildings. Also includes on site a fuel island, salt storage, chemical storage, and an enclosed large wash bay. This is just a aerial of the site plan with Eagle Boulevard being on the far left, which is the where the current Public Works facility sits. Silver Birch to the far right. So Building A is where the administrative office and some shops will be. Building B will be the fleet facility, and Building C will be vehicle storage, with Building E being the salt dome, and Building D being the fuel pad. Here's just a rough rendering of the design layout, with Building A being the lower corner of the site, along with Building B in the middle, and then Building C. Just kind of go through a couple of views.